This is a brief tutorial on getting to know FormIt. This is just going to take us through some of the early steps of FormIt, which is a 3D modeling program. A conceptual modeler is its particular strength, although it's becoming a pretty powerful modeling system. It's from Autodesk. It taps directly into or plays very nicely with Revit, and it has some great tools integrated in, specifically the simulation tools. So early on in the design process, we can begin thinking about how a building design is going to perform, which is great information as we're developing context and thinking about how the design is going to work. So one of the first things we're going to do is simply locate the program. I'm going to type in a quick search string, FormIt Autodesk. And we'll go directly to the app here through a couple of clicks. So the first search string is going to take me to FormIt 360's site, and then we're going to go directly to a couple of things about FormIt. First of all, FormIt will work on an iPad or iPhone. I believe it'll work on a few other mobile devices as well. Those are the two that I've been using it with. FormIt also works in a web browser, which is fabulous. The other thing about FormIt that's really nice is it absolutely has a standalone version, so I don't have to be connected to the web, so I can download a version. The version I've been using the most, though, is the online version that works in a web browser with Chrome, and I have a link for it right here. That's how often I use it. I go ahead and put it in my bar up at the top of Chrome, formit360.autodesk.com/app. So that's going to launch FormIt directly in a web browser. And again, I'm not going to expand a lot on the program on this initial tutorial video. This is just going to get you started in terms of developing some context, and we're going to do a series of tutorials inside of FormIt to begin your building on understanding of the program. So let's just put in a primitive really quick just so we have something to reference to see. So in terms of navigating around FormIt, there is a navigation bar right over here, and we'll definitely get a little bit into using that later on, but let's look at the basic methods. So I can use the wheel mouse button. If I press down and hold it, that's going to allow me to pan. I can roll the wheel to zoom in and out, and if you notice, it's going to zoom in wherever my cursor is at. So if I'm looking at that corner and I wheel in, it's going to zoom in to that corner. And then I can use the right mouse button to orbit around. So I have a few other options of navigation right over here. Again, we'll look more at those a little bit later as the tutorials come together. So the next thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and delete this primitive. So I'm going to double click on any of the faces. Oh, and that's actually a good point to make. One of the nice things about FormIt is it's going to do a really nice job of identifying different objects as a 3D model. So I have a face, an edge, and a node, and I can manipulate each one of those. So if I select a face, I can begin to manipulate that. I can select an edge and manipulate just an edge, or I can select, I'm tapping escape by the way to deselect, I can select just a node or a point along the 3D model and manipulate that. And all three of those are going to let me push, pull, and move a piece of this geometry around in a very sculptural kind of way, which is really nice. So to delete this primitive that I just put in, I'm just going to double click on any of the surfaces or any of the edges. Just a quick double click, it selects everything that's attached to that object, and I'll hit delete. So in terms of architectural design and the design process, one of the first things that I need to do is grab context. So we're going to set our location as one of the first steps here. So the location tab, the location button right here, top center. And the first thing it's going to ask me to do in this process is to sign in. So if you don't have an Autodesk account, you need to get one. And as a student, that is something that is free. And so you'll want to go to create account. I already have one, so I'm just going to type in my username, my password, And now I'm set and ready to go. And this is an important part of the process because this is also going to give me all of my saved files. It's basically everything that's stored online in my 360 account is now available to me. And I can also begin, once I'm signed in, I can do project sharing and some things like that. So what we're going to do is type in our site, 19th and Main, Kansas City. Enter. And it's going to take me directly to that location. It's also going to give me a few of these little weather icons, which are really important pieces of information. So simulation is a part of FormIt. It's integrated directly in, and it's a key element to understand that really we should be doing simulation right from the very beginning as we're exploring the design. Simple little things, building orientation, obviously size, the exposure of the glazing, all of those things have a very major impact on the performance of the building. They make a massive impact in terms of the appearance and the formal design language. And that's all information that we want to know early on in the process while we're formulating our design and our design strategy. So FormIt allows you at the earliest stages of design thinking to begin seeing a mode of simulation as a way to build design data and help influence your design decisions. So we need to know right away what weather station we are going to be able to use that works with the site. And typically, I would say 9 times out of 10, we're just picking the closest weather station. On occasion, though, we might choose a weather station that has a more similar terrain or a more similar set of local or microclimate circumstances that would emulate how we expect the site to behave. In this case, we're definitely going to go with the local or the closest weather station. Both are in sort of a light, not terribly dense, but a light urban environment. So we're going to go ahead and select this weather station right here, or weather location. And then, so it's going to give me the ID. It's going to give me my average temperatures by month. And then very importantly, it's going to give me my wind roses. And notice it doesn't give me only the average wind rose. So if I click on the average one, there's my wind rose annual, which is okay for some locations. But when we're designing in the Midwest, we have these massive temperature swings, as you can see in this sort of base weather data right here. We have these massive swings in temperature. And so there are times of the year where we have winds that we can capture, and there are definitely times of year where we want to be able to block the wind. So in the Midwest, with these massive temperature swings, this wind rose is somewhat useless, really, to just be honest about it. So they have a breakdown for us on specific months. Like let's look at December through February. So these are winds that we want to block. Largely, we know that the east, we don't have a lot of wind coming from that direction. And again, reading a wind rose, the further out we see, the more often the wind is coming from that direction. So this isn't the direction to, this is the direction from. So we have predominant winds coming out of the southwest in the winter, December to February, and between the north and the northwest. So we really have two directions that wind is coming from, and the size of these is also the frequency and speed at which wind is coming. So we know that these are winds December to February to block. Keep unclicking off of that. But then we can go to June to August, and we can start to look at winds that we could harness, winds that we could actually begin using some passive cooling with. And we can see that the winds are predominantly coming out of the south, heading to the north at that time of year. So that's really useful information. And again, getting this out of FormIt is as simple as clicking the print screen button, and then we'll open up Photoshop. And then we can simply do a quick paste directly into Photoshop from that. So we won't do that right now. We'll let Photoshop open. Oh, well, there we go. We'll just do File, New, OK, Edit, Paste, and then we'll crop out the bit of information that we want. just like that. And now I have this that I can save in a different folder. So I have that data without constantly having to go back into FormIt. So I've got that saved. I might want to put that on my boards for the site and site data. Let's go back into Chrome and FormIt. So I've got my weather station selected. I've got my site selected. The next thing I want to do is import a satellite image as a background to model on top of. So that's the specific site that we're looking at, putting a new building on, this parking lot. Definitely more context than that. So I can zoom out. There is a limit to how far I can zoom out, and there's also, as a lot of things, there's a limit to how much data I want to bring in. So I want something that's going to be about like this. Again, let's get the site approximately centered right here. So I'm going out 1, 2 blocks in each direction at least. And this is going to be quite a bit of data to work with, just about right for how much contextual information we're going to need, both in terms of a virtual model and a physical model. So we'll go ahead and click Finish Importing. And that's going to bring this in as a base map at a 1:1 scale. So when I say a 1:1 scale, what I mean specifically by that is as I come in, I can use tools to begin measuring out. And if I measure something across from here to here, this isn't to scale and as in an 1/8 inch or something like that. This is actually at its virtual size. That is 140 feet across by 60 feet. So that's really important information to have, and this is stuff that I can begin to come in and work with and develop the overall site and site context.